assembly on this auspicious occasion of the launch of the Green Chamber magazine. I've had the advantage of flipping through the inaugural issue, which will be launched shortly and which will be distributed shortly. What it begs is why such a magazine should be launched at this time in the history of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. When you have occasion to read the magazine, you will see that the Honourable Gbajabiamila goes down deep in history in 1961 and reminds us of the words that were spoken by an American president, which he appropriately says have now been cliché. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. I say that because today we live in a continent where many people misunderstand the role and function of legislators. We live in a continent where legislators are measured by the number of funerals that they attend, where the efficacy of legislators is measured by the number of weddings they attend, where their significance is measured by the number of men and women that they support on the day of their weddings. And therefore we live in a continent where the legislator is misunderstood. We live in a continent where legislators are not called and expected to perform their traditional functions. And that is why the launch of a magazine such as this speaks to the demands of a nation such as Nigeria, and I dare say many African countries. I cannot remember, but I know that there is an African saying that as long as lions do not have their historians, it is the exploit of the hunter rather than the bravery of the lion that will be talked about. Today, you have decided to tell your own story that you may not be misunderstood. You know, when in the 1960s there was an explosion of independence, we were handed down, and in many ways, many institutions were imposed on us. We were told that African countries, having regained their independence, had to embrace democracy. And we were told, borrowing once again from the definition of other civilizations, that democracy is a government of the people, for the people, and by the people. And we were told at the time of regaining our independence that we would have representative democracy. We were told then that you, honorable members of the House of Representatives, represented us. We were told then that you are our servants. And for a long time we believed that you are our servants. But over the years, things did change, and we started believing that you are no longer our servants, and that you had become our masters, and that therefore, even when you claim to represent us in many African countries, and you remind us that you are our servants, we do not believe you, because it is the newspapers that are left to say what you say, because it is the television and the newscasters that are told and are allowed in their jaundiced way to tell us what you represent. It gladdens my heart that in Nigeria, through the efforts of Honourable Gbajabiamila, you have taken the decision to renew your contract with the people of Nigeria. You have decided to create, or if you may, to recreate the umbilical cord that will link you with the people of Nigeria. Because in Nigeria, as in many countries, people are asking, why is it that the things that we expected of our leaders have not been delivered. When you listen to Nigerians both here and abroad, they are asking of their legislators, what are you doing? They are asking of their legislators, where are the promises that you made to us when we regained our independence? And the only way to answer them is through the medium of a publication such as this, so that the information that they receive is information that is not mediated. Nigerians both here and abroad are asking, you legislators who are representatives, what have you done over the years? They are asking, when we regained our independence, you promised that there would be no unemployment. And they are asking, what have you done about unemployment? What have you done about appropriate legislation in that area? You may have done something about it, but they do not know because you never told them. They are asking, what did you do about education? You promised that we would have free education. You may have said something about it in the many pieces of legislation that you have enacted, but they do not know, because the little that they hear is through the newspapers, whose memories are sometimes selective and jaundiced in order to paint a picture which is so not very rosy. They are asking, you promised that you would provide us with free health, and perhaps you may have enacted legislation, but they do not know, because what they hear are hospitals that are not functioning as they should. But this time round, through the magazine that will be launched shortly, you will be able in an unmediated way to tell them what it is that they have done. They are asking, what have you done about the extractive industry? And they cannot understand what it is that they have done. But I hope and pray that through this magazine, you will be able to speak to them directly. Nigerians, both home and abroad, are asking, in the year 2090, you had a vision 2020, and you promised that Nigeria would be one of the 20 largest economies in the world and one of the most influential nations on earth. They are asking, what have you done through legislation to ensure that Vision 2020 is realized? They are possibly asking, is it another mirage? Through this publication, you'll be able to tell them what it is that you have done. The Nigerians, both home and abroad, may be asking that last year, in the year 2019, you promised that you'd have a new currency. They are asking, that currency that you promised them in 2020, is it coming? And if it is coming, what is the legislation that you put together to ensure that that currency is alive and well? Perhaps you have done something about it, but Nigerians do not know. We are here and we know that Nigeria is a good citizen of the world. They know, Nigerians young and old, that Nigeria was present in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, when we came up with Agenda 2063, and they are asking as Big Brother Nigeria what it is that you are doing in order to ensure that Agenda 2063 is realized. Perhaps you have done something about it in your legislation, but we do not know. But I hope that through this magazine, you'll be able to speak to Nigeria directly and in a manner that is unmediated. Nigerians, both home and abroad, are asking that there is the Africa Continental Free Trade Area with its secretariats in Ghana. They are asking, what is the piece of legislation that you have enacted to ensure that that is realized? Perhaps you have done something about it, but they do not know. But I hope that through this magazine, that ghost of ignorance, which has not allowed Nigeria to appreciate and to embrace their leaders, will now be exercised. I hope that that ghost will be consigned to Jehannam so that it will not rise again, so that going forward Nigerians will understand their leaders for who they are. I remember as a young man, I read a book that was written in 1955 That book was written by an African-American, Carter G. Woodson. That book was entitled Miseducation of the Negro. And in that book, Carter G. Woodson poses the question, who is a leader? He poses the question, is a leader one who has monopoly of wisdom and knowledge? Is a leader one who knows everything? But he answers that rhetorical question in this way. He says he or she is a leader, not necessarily because he knows more than the people he leads, but because he's brave enough to offer himself or herself. He is a leader, not because the people whom he leads are walking on the ground and he or she is riding a horse. No. He is a leader because he is ready to go to the front. He is a leader because he or she is prepared to deny himself for the general good. How do I understand the Green Magazine? I understand the Green Magazine initiated by the Honourable Femi Bajabiamila as a document which is designed and dedicated to tell Nigerians that the time has come for your leaders to walk together with you, not because they are better than you, but because they have the honor and privilege of serving you. I understand that magazine to be telling Nigerians that if we had erred by denying you the information that you need, the time is now that we are going to walk with you. I understand that magazine to be telling Nigerians that we recognize that we may not perform as we ought to have performed, but going forward we are going to work with you. I understand that magazine to be saying that if we have starved you of information, we are going to ensure that you no longer starve of information. I understand that magazine to be a medium where the leaders of the House of Representatives in Nigeria are going to tell Nigerians that we may have erred when you gave us the honor and privilege of serving you, but we are going to be transparent and accountable. We are going to work with you. I understand that magazine to be saying that we are going to ensure that Nigerians walk with their leaders in the path of ensuring that Nigeria realizes our potential. You know, in my younger days, as a student of history, when I used to read about Nigeria, there are names that came to my mind. And as I grew older, whether they performed as you expected them to perform, I read your great founding leaders. I read the works of Nnamdi Azikiwe, and I listened to him in those early days. He was as eloquent as he was passionate in telling Nigerians and Africans, because he was called the Zik of Africa, that leadership is about service. This magazine is an occasion for you to demonstrate to Africa that you are servant leaders. And I did not only read about Nnamdi Azikiwe, I also read about Abubakar Tafawa Balewa in his younger days, eloquent and passionate about Nigeria. You may not have agreed with all that he said and did, but you cannot deny the fact, the clarity of vision and the need for marshalling the people as the only antidote to the problems that have afflicted Nigeria and by extension Africa. And I did not stop at merely listening to Tafawa Balewa. I also had the occasion of listening to the Sultan of Sokoto, Sir Ahmadu Bello. Whether you liked him or not, the clarity and the passion with which he spoke about his country was as telling as it was titillating. You are the successors of those great leaders. The question that you must ask yourself, and this is a personal question, now that you have been given the honor and privilege of serving Nigeria, now that Nigerians and Africans refer you to as honourable members, the question is, are you honourable members or horrible members? Because the question as to whether you are honourable is determined by the service that you render to the people. When we read the Green Chamber magazine, we want to see the works that you have done, and we want to see honourable members, not horrible members. Now that Nigerians have given you the opportunity to think for them, to imagine for them, when it is reported in the Green Chamber magazine and we talk of Nigeria as being a great country, the question is, and we will be asking you, are you midwives for the good things of Nigeria? Are you midwives that deliver bouncing baby boys and girls, or you are midwives that kill the children in the cradle? Nigerians will be asking those painful questions which are necessary but uncomfortable. Nigerians will be asking, are you creating a country which will be the great country that it ought to be? These are the questions that Nigeria are asking for. But I am acutely aware, even as I speak to you, that there is no shortage of words that will be spoken. Today I only speak to your minds and hearts in the hope that what we say on the day of the occasion of the launch of the Green Chamber magazine will be the mother's milk that will drive you to do that which is good and that which is in the interest of the great nation of Nigeria. It was your great son, the late Chinua Achebe, who in 1983, writing his little book, The Trouble with Nigeria, said, and permit me to quote him, that the trouble with Nigeria is simply and squarely a problem of leadership. Today you are the leaders. I am asking you, as you said, if you are governor, and permit me to congratulate the governor of Imo, and permit me to congratulate other governors who are here present, and permit me to congratulate the senators here present, and permit me to congratulate the Senate representatives here present, and the House of Representatives. Even as I am congratulating you, ask yourself, do you deserve to be congratulated? Because my congratulations are only useful if you are servants of Nigeria. I have no doubt in my mind, as I sit here and as I stand here, I'm looking at your faces. I'm not a mind reader, and I'm acutely aware that Shakespeare was right when he said that the face sometimes is the mask of the mind rather than the mirror of it. And I'm also acutely aware that he said that a man's state of mind is as much a fact as the state of his digestion. I therefore hold the view that the faces that I see here are faces whose desire is to see Nigeria great. The faces that I see here are faces that are determined to ensure that Nigeria occupies a pride of place amongst the community of nations. Nigeria has been becoming great for too long. The time is now that Nigeria must be great, in fact. You will know that in the next few years, Nigeria will produce 1 in every 5 of Africans. When I travel to different parts of the world and you travel to different parts of the world, if you do not meet a Nigerian doctor who is at the best in the world, you meet a Nigerian astronaut who is at the best in the world, you meet a Nigerian banker who is at the best in the world, you meet a Nigerian who is as good as anybody in the world, there is no problem with Nigerians. In fact, there are those who say that if you go to any part of the world and you do not meet a Nigerian, run away from that place because that place is not worthy of visiting. Nigeria is a great country, and I have no doubt in my mind that we can make her great. When I hear Nigeria saying that our GDP is only $450 billion, I'm not impressed. And indeed, I remember that a Nigerian son who is now the director of the African Development Bank, Adeshina, said that people do not eat GDPs, and I agree with him. GDPs are not edible. But I hold the view that Nigeria should be in the same space economically as Germany is. Nigeria should be in the same space politically as the United States is. So as I conclude, because conclude I must, what do I see on the occasion of the launch of this magazine? The Honourable Femi Bajabiamila. History now sits on your laps. In my ethnic group, we have a saying that when cows deliver during the period when you are the cowherd, you are blessed of God. This calf called the Green Chamber magazine has been delivered during your watch. History will celebrate you. But history will also remember that you are not alone in this process of delivery. History will remember that there were others with you. History will remember that there was teamwork. History will remember also that Africa is also in the business of launching things. And after they have launched them, they are dead on arrival. I look forward to this magazine remaining alive for all times. I look forward to a Nigeria whose House of Representatives will be celebrated for the legislation that they enact, because I am now in a Nigeria which is one of the youngest nations in Africa and in the world. And young Nigerians are now asking of their legislators, how will you enact legislation that will help us to innovate and invent? I look forward to the next episode of the next series of the magazine, demonstrating that there are legislators who are concerned about innovation. I look forward to the day when young Nigerians who are impatient for employment will be looking at the magazine, and they'll be able to read the names of legislators who are famous for the pieces of legislation that they proposed and enacted under the extractive industry. I look forward to the day when Nigeria will have reawakened her agriculture, and that legislation will be produced and publicized in the magazine which speaks to agriculture. I know Nigeria can be great. I know Nigeria will be great. But Nigeria can be great and will only be great if you men and women seated here choose that Nigeria will be great. I look forward to the day, therefore, when the gods of success will smile upon Nigeria and say, behold, you great Nigeria. You Nigeria of whom God blessed with legislators. You Nigeria who during the watch of President Muhammadu Buhari and during the speakership of Femi Bajabiamila. You Nigeria are now great. You Nigeria are now great because your sons and daughters are not running away from you, but are homecoming to you. You Nigeria are great because your young men and women now see opportunities. If they don't see them in Zaria, they see them in Imo. If they don't see them in Imo, they see them in Zamfara. If they don't see them in Zamfara, they see them in Anambra. I look forward to that Nigeria, and I know that Nigeria is possible. God bless.